Kuala Lumpur in December 1997, pronounced a partnership in dynamic development of Southeast Asian nations that are outward-looking and living in peace, stability, and prosperity. And such goals should be achieved by, among others, consolidation and expansion of extra-regional linkages for mutual benefit, and cooperate to strengthen the multilateral trading system and reinforce the roles of the different sectors, including the business sector, for the networking and sharing of information. And this specifies the need to enhance cooperation and partnership with dialogue partners to facilitate the development of the region in terms of progress and economic well-being. The vision concludes with an optimistic, outward-looking ASEAN playing a pivotal role in the international fora and advancing ASEAN's common interests. It projects an ASEAN having an intensified relationship with its dialogue partners and other regional organizations based on equal partnership and mutual respect. The concept of ASEAN dialogue and thus cooperation with the external world, and that's the reason why I thought I would be the third speaker, because I would be speaking more of relations between ASEAN and the broader world out there. But this idea of a dialogue dates back to the first years of the ASEAN during the first meeting of the heads of government in 1976 and the second summit in 1977. And both expressed ASEAN readiness to develop fruitful relations and mutually beneficial cooperation with other countries in the region. Economic cooperation likewise with third countries and group of countries be further intensified. So the ASEAN Vision 2020 declares with pride the beneficiality of ties with ASEAN by countries outside the region. For one, we are a population of 500 million people. Secondly, the gross domestic product of the region in mid-2007 reached nearly $900 billion. And we have high economic growth and poverty alleviation over the past years, substantial trade and investment flows from liberalization measures within and outside the region. So economic and trade matters became the major basis for the first group of countries that ASEAN accorded full dialogue partner status. May I have the first transparency, please? And you would see in this transparency the different dialogue partner countries now involved with ASEAN. Of course, the years are not indicated, but you can see that on top of the list, we have Australia, which became a full dialogue partner in 1974 and was followed by New Zealand in 1975, Japan in 1976. And then the United States and the European Union came around in 1977 and 1980 respectively as full dialogue partner countries. Currently, there are 11 full dialogue partner countries, including one international organization, that is the United Nations Development Program, and there is one sectoral dialogue partner. That means that it is not really on the full scale of relations, but on certain issues, and that is Pakistan. So we see that ASEAN's dialogue partner countries run the range of advanced democracies and capitalist states to emerging and dynamic economies such as India, China, Russia, and Pakistan. And these countries form part of a strategic move to secure the peace and security of the region in the post-Cold War era of multipolarity. One important principle of the dialogue partnership in ASEAN is that of putting in an equal footing the dialogue partners instead of donor-client relationship that would be perceived of the dominant partner. Nothing of that kind in ASEAN. And this was made clear in a seminar paper delivered in Hanoi in 2003 on the topic Strategy Towards Dialogue Partners and the ASEAN +3 process, that has become more of the East Asia Summit event. So this means mutual benefits of development cooperation, but also greater market access for ASEAN exports, securing more investments, trade in services and tourism, narrowing development gap to expedite regional integration. The concept of dialogue, as it has evolved in more than a generation in ASEAN, is an ASEAN community that is linked to the outside world in terms of three important pillars. The first is the ASEAN Security Community, the second is the ASEAN Economic Community, and the third is the ASEAN Social Cultural Community. And these pillars have their respective building blocks, which I'm sure you have heard already about the ASEAN Free Trade Area, ASEAN Investment Area, and the Framework Agreement on Services. So ASEAN's competitive edge in the global market is expected to improve with the opening of its markets to dialogue partners and vice versa.